Welcome to Gold Derby's Reality Nonfiction Emmy panel. I am Senior Editor Marcus James Dixon, and we are here with Clay Newbill, the producer of Shark Tank on ABC. Clay, the show marked its 300th episode during this 14th season. There have been over 1,000 pitches in the tank. You've won 4 Emmy Awards over the years. I'm curious, what do you think is the secret to this show's never-ending success?
That's a good question. It's hard to say. I don't think there's one reason. I think there's a multitude of reasons. But it definitely strikes a chord with people. Obviously you've got the Sharks. They're fantastic. We learn from them. Our show is a show that is not only entertaining, but it's also educational. That's a rarity, particularly I think in the nonfiction space. It's fun. It's funny. I'm learning. The Sharks are great. But probably, the heart and soul of the show are the entrepreneurs that come on our show. Because it's funny, who would have thought that entrepreneurs would make great television? Certainly not I, but there's something that's so admirable about them that you see when you watch our show. And, they have such incredible stories, and they've overcome such great adversity to get to that moment on the rug. And some of them have walked away from high-paying jobs because ultimately they weren't happy or satisfied with that job, all to risk it to try and become their own boss, right? It's pretty incredible. And I think we see ourselves or who we hope we could be in them, because you're sitting at home, and we're watching the show, and here's somebody who comes in and tells this incredible story of how they got here today, all chasing this dream, this idea to give themselves, to change their life. I mean, Shark Tank is sort of the great equalizer, right? Anybody can walk onto our show, regardless of age, gender, socioeconomic, race, or educational background. Anybody that comes on the show, they stand on that rug. It's a great equalizer. Everyone is given that same opportunity when they pitch the Sharks. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny. My son he's in 8th grade, so he's been studying the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and he was reading it to me, and just recently. And I think our founding fathers would have been fans of Shark Tank. Every person has these unalienable. I mispronounce that, but every person has these rights, mm-hmm. right, to pursue life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And I think that that's what we see when we watch those people come. The entrepreneurs, they come mm-hmm. on that show, they're pursuing their life, their liberty, their freedom, their pursuit of happiness for them and their family. As I said, they walk away. The courage to come on television and pitch an idea, a dream, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the Sharks are going to like it, or if they're not, you're going to get shredded, or you're going to get a deal. And really, for the viewers at home, it's inspiring, it's aspirational. These people are in pursuit of the American dream. We call it the American dream because we're in America, but it's really, again, it's a global dream. It's a human dream, right? Doesn't matter what country you're from or who, where you're from. Everybody, has that dream of, I want to do well for myself and my family and potentially have an impact on the world, right? Mm-hmm. And on society with something that's an idea that I had, and they get their shot on Shark Tank. And I think that for us, as I said, we see a little bit of that, or we hope to see ourselves in them, because they have the guts and the courage to do it. And they're not just pitching the Sharks, they're pitching all of America. All those people at home are going to be judging them at that moment too. Mm-hmm. So I think, there's, like I said, there's a lot of things that factor into the show and why it resonates, but it certainly does strike a chord. And I think the entrepreneurs, as great as the Sharks are, and they are fantastic, and they impress. We're going into our 15th season. We're going to start taping our 15th season in about a month, and they continue to just surprise us every year with amazing information and knowledge. But I think that's those entrepreneurs that come in with their dreams and that pursuit of that dream, and again, that pursuit of their life and liberty and happiness, that makes the show really special.
So well said. One of the ways you keep things fresh after so many years is you keep adding new guest sharks to the panel, and Gwyneth Paltrow is probably one of the biggest ones you've ever had. How did that decision come about? Is she just a huge fan of the show like all of us are?
Well, I would, first of all, yes, Gwyneth was a huge get for us. It wasn't the first, we've gone out to Gwyneth in the past. And this year, I think the stars aligned it happens sometimes. And we were persistent. She was somebody that we felt would be a great guest shark because she's so well known as a celebrity for her acting, her performances. She's an Academy Award winner. But the thing that we really liked about her is that while that was going on, she also had this idea to start her own business, Goop, which has just become hugely successful. I think it's like, I don't know, $400 million company, right? Retail sales, or 600 million, something really huge now. And when she was at probably the peak of her acting career, she started Goop, right? And people were telling her, because, and then Goop, as it grew, it became more and more successful. It pulled more and more of her time, right? Because she's running this business. She wasn't just the face of the business. She was the person behind the business, instructing what direction the business is going to go, assembling an incredible team, which she has done. And it took more and more time away from her opportunities to be what everyone thought was her career, which was as a performer, as an actor in our entertainment industry. And a lot of, there were, I don't want to speak for her, but she said that in her Shark Profile interview, which we did and was in her first episode, she mentions the fact that a lot of people thought, maybe that's not a good idea because you're doing so well in this area. Why would you want to do that and jeopardize? But as I said earlier, and whether it's Gwyneth who pursued this dream and it's become this huge success, and I'm sure there's no regrets for her. Our entrepreneurs that come on the show, it's, they want to someday have some success, similar to Gwyneth. But also, we've had some incredible guest sharks. I would say, year before last, season 14, we had Gwyneth, we had Kevin Hart, who was incredible. And I think the thing that was so great about Kevin was that he's probably even more recognizable worldwide than Gwyneth. Kevin Hart, everybody knows Kevin Hart. He's such a great actor and comedian, but I don't think whereas Gwyneth, a lot of people knew about Goop and her success, and she's formed this incredible company, which has gone on to be a real juggernaut. A lot of people were surprised, I think, when Kevin came in and he was so business knowledgeable. I mean, he held his own. He was, in a lot of ways, he controlled the room. And I've heard from other people, it's like, well, that's Kevin. He does that wherever he's at. It's just who he is. He's just a force of nature. But I think a lot of our viewers were surprised that, Kevin wasn't just a performer. He was a businessman. And a good friend of mine who's a big Kevin Hart fan reached out to me afterwards and said, hey, I watched the episode and it was great, but I thought Kevin was going to be more funny. And I said, well, that's Kevin when he's performing, when he's doing stand-up or he's in a comedy, but you saw Kevin the businessman. And yeah, he was still funny, but he's not looking for jokes. He's approaching this and having a discussion as a business person.
And the episode you're submitting to the Emmys this year is the season finale, which will air May 19th on ABC. I've seen it. It's a tearjerker. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the last pitch is a must watch. What is it about this episode that is the one that you're like, this is the one we have to submit?
Well, every season, we shoot approximately 150 pitches or 140, depending. Actually, I'm going to share a quick little story. Marcus, you visited our set a few years back,
yes,
long before COVID. And prior to us having this conversation today, you'd shared that we saw one pitch and we were a little surprised on how long the pitch took. It took like an hour long.
Yeah, about an hour. Yeah.
And the thing is, the other producers, showrunners that have spoken today have talked about authenticity in their shows. And I'm really happy when I hear that for any show. And that's certainly how we approach Shark Tank. We want it to be authentic. The sharks know nothing about the businesses before they come in. Right. And that's by design because it forces the sharks to ask a lot of questions. And that's how we as a viewer at home learn. Right. It's now for a moment, I'm the fly on the wall watching this business meeting going down. So what happens is we shoot 8 to 10 pitches a day. And the entrepreneur will walk in and they'll hit the rug and they'll pause for a moment while we get some shots. And then our stage manager says, begin, and they'll go into their pitch. Pitch is going to last a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Then it's an open-ended Q&A, which can go anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to, in your case, an hour for that pitch that you saw, depending on the complexity of the business, how many sharks are interested, if it gets into a bidding war, et cetera. And it's really important to us that it be an authentic business meeting. And we take that, the average pitch is 40 to 45 minutes. We edit that down. Yoon Lingner, another one of our executive producers, and our post team do a great job of editing down something that long to this long. And it makes sense still. You can track it, but it's dramatic and it's funny. And it's got highs and lows and peaks and valleys throughout the entire pitch. So, it's this authentic moment. Whatever happens out there. We don't stop the cameras. We don't say, okay, can you say that again? There's none of that. We don't stop rolling the cameras until the entrepreneur has left the room. We give a few minutes for the sharks to talk about what just happened. And then we'll say cut. And then we set for the next one. Right. So that's our process. Now, while we're shooting all of those pitches, we want our premiere to be great. And we want our finale also. It's probably our second most important show of the season. So we'll earmark some episodes that we want to save for that finale, some pitches. And as you said, I think if you look at the 4 pitches that we have in our finale, it's a good range. You've got representation of different types of entrepreneurs, people, different types of businesses, how far along they are, and they each have their own different story. And that's when I say earlier, when you asked what's the most important element, that I think the entrepreneurs are, because each one of them walks in with their own unique story. They're their own little show, their own little movie, their own little TV segment, each entrepreneur that comes in, because the businesses may have some similarities, but how they got there is going to be different. And the person behind that is going to be different. So we targeted Influencers in the Wild, which is a social media influencer named Tank, who's very popular. Has a great social media platform. And he has created a board game about social media influencers, which is really funny and fun. And I thought that's a great pitch. I'm sure everybody has seen social media influencers out there, or somebody, taking their photos of themselves, and it sort of has fun with that. Tones of Melanin is a story of a female entrepreneur, African-American, she's a great example of someone that has courage and grit and started a business that she saw, just on her own when she was in college, that she could do, and has grown it into a very successful business. Tucky is a great example of a stay-at-home mom who had a need for a garment and just created and invented something on her own. And then the one that you mentioned, the final pitch, which is the tearjerker, and it certainly is Iris, and it's a father-son team that come in with a really smart idea for eyewear. So it's a great episode. And I think, really, and we also have a seasons update recap, which we do in every finale episode, which basically highlights all the updates that we did through the season, which updates are sort of obviously the update on where the companies that we're highlighting are now, and they're telling their success stories. And it also highlights the guest sharks that we've had on the show for the season.
Well, it's the perfect episode for, Emmy voters to analyze as they vote. Well, thank you so much, Clay, for chatting with us today, and stick around. We're going to do the big panel next.
Great. Thank you.